Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel. My name is Lydia, the Fun Finance Queen, your money mentor online. Thank you so much for joining me today on my YouTube channel. I'm so excited to be here and to have you with me. Today I want to talk about something that people don't talk about much. It's the psychology of spending. Why is it we spend the way we spend? Is there a reason behind that? Of course there is. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing happens in a vacuum. So my role today is to talk to you about why we spend what we spend, how we spend it, and what goes on in our heads when we spend the money that we spend. All right, so let's get going. Okay, so we all have triggers when it comes to money. We all have triggers when it comes to everything. Some people have triggers when it comes to food, right? You're sad, you're depressed, people go and eat. Or some people have triggers when it comes to getting anxious. They go and exercise. So what is your trigger when it comes to spending money? That's what I want us to address today. So we all have those triggers, and we all need to understand what we prioritize when we spend money. So for some people, they'll prioritize having fun, right? Even if it means they come home and eat ramen, they will have fun. Other people prioritize investing when they spend money. So they will say, okay, I will live on bread and butter and ramen noodles, but I'll take that money that's left over or that I've prioritized and I'll invest it. So we all prioritize different things when it comes to spending money. Now let's dig deeper into some of those things. Okay, so what kind of personality do you have when it comes to spending money? I think we all have different personalities generally, but when it comes to money spending, it's actually something completely different. It doesn't mean that because you're an introvert, you won't spend money. It just means that your relationship with money might be different. Okay, so how is your relationship with money and why is it the way it is? Do you think that every penny that comes into your account has to be spent and that money needs to bring you something that will fill up your house and buy stuff to impress people who don't care about you? What is your relationship with money? It's important for us to actually go through this and understand it. And of course, how did your parents treat money? Because honestly, we learn a lot from how our parents spend money. And how did your parents handle money? Were they able to make investments? Were they able to leave you an inheritance, for example? Or did you end up taking care of them? Or how did your parents handle money? Did they argue about money? Those are all questions that we need to pay attention to and see if these are things that are affecting our relationship with money today. Those 6 types of spending are approval spending, achievement spending, admiration spending, amusement spending, relationship spending, and responsibility spending. Those are our 6. Approval, achievement, admiration, amusement, relationship, and responsibility. All right, let's address these one by one. Approval spending is when you spend to fit in, or you spend to get something out of relationship with others. So for example, we all heard about the fake heiress. I think her name was Anna Diwali, but I'll put her name at the bottom. And she didn't have money, she came from poverty. But she learned how to borrow money and how to spend it on others so that she could get approval. That was a major issue because she didn't have the money to spend, but she needed to get into those circles. So she spent a bunch of money she didn't have and ended up in jail, sadly. So that is a approval spending, and that is a worst case scenario. It could be that you don't have money in your bank account, but your friends say, oh, let's go get a coffee. That coffee is going to cost you £5. It's going to take you overdrawn, and that coffee all of a sudden is going to cost you £8 because of the interest that they'll charge you on your account. So think about it. Does it make sense for you to spend to gain approval from your friends, or is it better for you to say, do you know what, I'll go get a glass of water with you. I'll just have some water when we go to the cafe and not spend money and get a coffee, right? So let's be smart about how we spend in terms of approval. Now, achievement spending. Now, this is one I am so guilty of. And spending doesn't have to be bad, but I have spent money on a lot of things. For example, I have a PMP. I spent money on that, spent a lot of time actually studying for it as well. But I have an MBA. I studied for that. I do training courses all the time, and they cost a lot of money. So guys, training, improving your skills, etc., achievement spending is something you can actually get addicted to. So you need to know when those achievement spendings actually bring you a return on investment. I would say don't spend on achievement spending unless you're actually going to benefit from it through like a pay rise or being able to increase your money in a side hustle. So take the time to ensure that if you're doing anything around achievement spending, it gives you a return on investment rather than just gives you titles or letters behind your name. The third type of spending is admiration spending. This I find really interesting. It's when you spend to look cool. It's very much maybe a teenage thing, but it's not just limited to teenagers. It's peer pressure, basically, where you see your friends buy a new car and you decide to go buy a new one too. Or you see your friends having a certain accessory and you want that too, or a certain type of TV or certain furniture. That's what adults like us struggle with. But then you have children or teenagers who might struggle with making sure that they want to wear the latest Nikes or Jordans. And those are things that we have to pay attention to, because that is admiration spending. When someone walks up to you and says, "Oh, I like that look." The question is, can you afford that look? And remember, our job is not to impress people who really don't care about us by spending money that they don't even see. So take the time to ensure that admiration spending is not something you do if you don't have it. You can do it if you have the money, but don't do it if you're actually going into debt or actually, acquiring debt to actually look a certain way. All right, amusement spending. Spending to make yourself and others happy. So again, if you're doing this and this is money that you have, please do. I love going out to eat. It's one of my favorite things. I just love being able to go out, treat my family and to a meal. Or for example, go out with my husband and I and just eat something that we enjoy on our anniversary on certain days. Those are all things that excite me. So amusement spending is great, but if I'm putting it on a 25% interest credit card, that's probably not such a good idea. So let's make sure that if we do amusement spending, we enjoy it and don't have to have a hangover the next day that tells us in our head, like, "Oh my gosh, I shouldn't have spent that money." Take the time and make sure that if you're doing amusement spending, that you enjoy yourself without regret the next day. Okay. All right, the last two, relationship spending. Relationship spending. Now, as an African, as someone who grew up in Sierra Leone, West Africa, I was taught that my role as a child should be to ensure that my parents are okay. Part of my responsibility or my relationship means that I want to give to people, okay? I want to be able to take care of the people that I love if I can. So spending on others who we often care for is relationship spending. And sometimes we don't expect anything back in return. Sometimes we won't expect anything back in return. So relationship spending is where you give to others that you care for. Okay, and then last but not least, you have responsibility spending. Now, this is what I touched on right just a second ago. Like being African, we always give back to our elders or our parents. So my mom has passed, but as often as I can, I love to be able to send a little gift to her sister and say, "Hey, sending you love and hugs from your darling niece," right? And this is my aunt in Sierra Leone. But you also have people like grandparents who always want to give to their grandchildren, or sisters who always want to say, "Okay, you can share my clothes today, borrow my shoes," or whatever the case may be. That's relationship spending. But responsibility spending is when we care for the people who depend on us. Okay, people for whom may not be able to take good care of themselves as they used to. Retirement sometimes brings less money to people. So being able to have a situation where you can spend on the people for whom you care or who may have cared for you before is a great thing. And it's a great tradition from the African culture. So I'd encourage you to do it if you can. So you're spending on those for whom we are responsible. And responsibility for me in my situation includes my parents, it includes my children, and it includes other dependents. So those are our 6 types of spending. I find this really interesting. I would love for you to put in the comments below what type of spending you do the most. Is it number 1, number 2, number 3, or is it relationship or admiration spending or responsibility spending? What type of spending do you do the most? All right, so in conclusion, as we've taken time to look at how we spend money, I want us to kind of do our best to align our attitude to how we spend our money. For example, if we think that rich people are evil, I promise you our money mindset is too powerful to allow money to come into our hands if we think it's going to make us evil. So our role is to ensure that we realign our mindset with what we want to achieve. If you want to achieve wealth, you have to be able to see the goodness that wealth can do in other people if it comes into your hands. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, money is neutral. Money is not evil, it's not good. It all depends on the hands that it falls into. If you're an evil person, if Hitler had money, guess what he did with it? He bombarded the whole of Europe and tried to take over. But there have been people who have also had money who use it to help other people and not kill. They use it to bless other people and not curse. So they take the time and reflect the thoughts and the attitudes that are within them in the way that they spend their money. So ladies and gentlemen, the reality is we need to understand ourselves. We need to embrace who we are, understand our childhood, how money has affected us in the past, and change that if we need to, so that we can align ourselves with what we want to achieve in terms of money. So, money only amplifies the personality in whose hands it is. So it's important to remember, money only amplifies the personality whose hands it is in. So take your time and look at your hands. Think to yourself, if I have money, what will I do with it? How will I be with it? Will it change my attitude? Will it change my personality? If it does, it's only because you were already that person. So let's work on ourselves first to ensure that when it comes into our hands, we're able to handle it properly. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this helps somebody. Before you go, I know I asked 3 things of you. I'd like for you to share this video with someone who you think it could help. I'd like for you to like this video, and I'd also like you to subscribe to my channel. Now, touching on that very quickly, I realized recently that 80% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribers. Ladies and gentlemen, to be able to add the value that I add to you, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe to this channel so that we can grow the channel together and be here for one another as we strive towards achieving more wealth and financial freedom. Thank you so much for hopping on today. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you on the next one.